high above the towns and cities of northern England. There are vast untouched swathes of moorland and fells. Thousands of acres hold court to a tiny incumbent, precious and complex. Could a microscopic plant hold the key to our ecological future? In the heart of Manchester, these remarkable people are putting this green wonder back into the spotlight. The Moss House has played host to its damp, moist residents for over a century.
One of the things that's happened in the last few years that is quite a change is that there's been a real explosion of interest in moss. You can see artists doing work with moss. You've got the kind of Japanese home plant craze coming into people's homes in Europe and in North America as well. And all of these things have changed the way that people think about moss. And that goes hand in hand with the environmental benefits, many, many benefits to mosses. There's also a book that's been really important written by Robin Wall-Kimmerer called Gathering Moss, and she's a botanist, but she's also a member of Potawatomi Nation, indigenous peoples in North America. And what she does in that book is really amazing. She brings together scientific Western knowledge, but with traditional wisdom, traditional ecological wisdom, and she talks about her personal life as well. So we suddenly see through moss, for her, moss isn't just this thing you put in one place. It's her working life, it's her personal life, and it's about a different kind of relation between people and the world around them, not humans on one side and plants over there, but humans and people understanding that they have an interrelationship and an interdependency. And moss is a really great way to think about that, because it's so tiny, because it's it's so ubiquitous and everyday but mundane, or people want to get rid of it. To think about it differently is first a challenge, but then you see how it's not something, nature isn't just something out there that you need to think about, but it's actually right here in front of you, on the brick wall right next to you, in the pond that I'm sitting next to here on the rock. It's everywhere you choose to look.
I first came across moss really because I'm a 19th century literature scholar, and the Manchester novelist Elizabeth Gaskell has a story all about working class struggles in Manchester. It's published in 1848 called Mary Barton, but there's a wonderful moment when two of the working class young women in there, Margaret and Mary, meet on the street, and Margaret says to Mary, "Oh, come and sit with me while I'm sewing, because my grandfather is out moss hunting and he won't be back until late." And I started to think, what is moss hunting? And then realised, there's loads of people in Manchester going out after their day's work in the factories to have a look at mosses and gather them and find out about them. And moss is incredibly kind of rich and beautiful. Look at these amazing little sporophytes. This is the way moss reproduces. But it also creates like a tiny, gorgeous forest, so you don't have to live in a countryside area with a beautiful park outside your house to enjoy the natural world. The philosopher Merleau-Ponty says that looking at something has the same kind of ambiguous quality as touch. He talks about touch in the first place and says, if I touch the moss is touching me. But he talks about how looking at things can also do that. Looking envelops, palpates, espouses, he says, which is amazing. That idea that just by looking at this moss, we can kind of surround it, feel it in a way, get a sense of it. And that's a kind of embodied sort of knowing that anyone can do anytime, anywhere, just outside your house, in the cracks in the pavement. So we've not only got this beautiful tree, but look at the the paving slabs. And just right here in this little tiny microclimate of the crack which holds moisture, we have moss growing here alongside other plants, and moss often creates a little kind of microecology where other plants can grow as well.
Mosses are notoriously difficult to taxonomize, and that's why bryology, the study of mosses, is an increasingly small field. Just have a look and see what you notice, and don't worry about what the scientific name is. Just appreciate the moss around you and think of it as a kind of atmosphere, a background, something that supports whole ecosystems in the city. Again, it supports bird life in the city, it supports plant life in the city, it controls the flow of water in the city streets. So it's valuable even if you don't know the scientific name of what you're looking at. You can know a little bit about different types. This here is a little feather moss here. This one is a bristle moss, and that's quite intuitive. This one looks like a feather. This one feels bristly, like a little tiny bristly tree growing on the bark. So you can know those basic categories, and that can give some interest. It can make you feel like you're noticing the world around you. But you don't have to worry about knowing the exact difference between one type of moss and another type. You can leave that to the ecologists and scientists and just appreciate the beauty of the different mosses that you see around you in the city.
Another of the Manchester mossdronauts is Oliver. For many years he's propagated this tiny verdant bounty.
Yeah, I think it's a web of life going on here. Essentially what we have here is ecological succession. So mosses will colonise like bare land, so even if you left some concrete out there, soil will build up on that concrete, and we'll have areas where other plants can establish, and over time that ecosystem will develop into a climax ecosystem, which we call the forest. So that the mosses are really the key pioneers to making life start on our planet.
When you look at a tree like this, sometimes we might look at a tree with the lichen and the mosses, and we're used to thinking about them as things that we want to clean off and tidy up. But if you saw a painting or a piece of textured art with all these beautiful different textures and colours intermingling with each other, that look at the different shapes that the lichen and mosses are forming on this tree, you might think, wow, that's an amazing, beautiful piece of art. And if we start to look at the natural world like that and see the way that it's living together and see its beauty, we can start to enjoy what it's doing around us instead of wanting to get rid of it. I mean, if you look at this lichen, this is a slight aside from the moss, but if you look closely at this lichen, for instance, it has these amazing little tiny cups which are part of its reproductive bodies. So beautiful and extraordinary. So rather than just seeing it as a mass, again, you get close and see it as an individual. It transforms your thinking.
It's associated with calmness and with meditation and with patience and taking things slowly. And I think in a really busy environment and in a world that feels like it's speeding up all the time, those kind of places and those associations with stillness, with quiet, with just sitting down and having 2 minutes to yourself and thinking about stuff that isn't what you have to do next, that is becoming closely associated with moss as well. And it's the softness of moss, isn't it? It's this idea that it's tender to the touch, it's soft, it's welcoming, and that in literature in the past you often had mosses described as pillows or beds or carpets that you could lie on. So there's definitely some kind of connection there between the welcomingness of moss and rest and security and comfort.